Hey, welcome and welcome back to the channel once again, my dear internet friends. This probably is one of the most anticipated products since the genesis of the Sony's 2x teleconverter for their E-mount cameras. The current Sony's 2x teleconverter has a pathetic reputation for being notoriously soft and slow. Us Sony folks have been mopping the floor with just 1.4x teleconverter, which is only marginally better than the 2x teleconverter, which is still plenty soft, super slow in focusing, and is only good at ruining the experience of using expensive G Master lenses. To my knowledge, Viltrox is the first ever company to boldly take a stance on making this 2x teleconverter for Sony E-mount cameras. So today, let's see if this is any good in terms of build quality, sharpness, autofocusing speed, and overall experience of using it with my 100 to 400mm G Master lens. Right now, if you're thinking of buying this teleconverter, here's the list of compatible lenses that I could find from internet. I might be wrong, so before buying it, please check with your seller if this teleconverter is compatible with the lens you have. Before I get into my opinions on this teleconverter, I should mention that I can't validate the claims I found on the internet that this teleconverter can shoot more than 15 frames per second on Sony body, but once I get my pre-ordered A7 V on my hand, you bet I will test it and make a follow-up video on that. Perhaps even with the 70 to 200mm G Master version 2 lens as well. So until then, we have my sweet little A7C2 to test this teleconverter for photos and videos. The A7C2 is no slouch when it comes to shooting action photos or videos. Here are my photos and videos from A7C2 paired with the 100 to 400mm G Master lens for falconry event and 70 to 200mm f2.8 G Master 2 lens for the futsal game. So this is almost a decade old 100 to 400mm G Master lens, which is proven to be plenty sharp and fast lens. With that said, let's talk about this Viltrox 2x teleconverter for Sony E-mount cameras. The build quality of this teleconverter is surprisingly good for its price. It also comes with this nice little padded carry pouch. I managed to get this teleconverter for about $225 but the official pricing is about $280 which is half the price of the Sony's 2x teleconverter. Weighing just about 225 grams, it feels solid, and for the price, it is weather sealed. I'm not sure how well the weather sealing works, but I see a thick rubber gasket at the mount, so that's somewhat reassuring. Before getting into how sharp this teleconverter is, let's make this part clear. I am pairing the Viltrox 2x teleconverter with my 100 to 400mm f4.5 to f5.6 G Master lens, which means the focal length changes from 200 to 800mm and the widest apertures change from f9 to f11. f9 at 200mm, f10 at 300mm, and from 400 to 800mm it stays at f11. So I was wondering if diffraction could become an issue at f11. So keep that in mind for the rest of the video. Let me set the baseline sharpness of the lens by comparing the sharpness of the lens at 400mm wide open at f5.6 and at f11. Both images are identical in terms of sharpness and clarity. I'm able to clearly see even the textures on the walls. The only difference I could see is more ISO noise on the f11 image. Same is the case for all the focal lengths of the lens from 100 to 400mm. Even zoomed in 100%, the photos look really sharp and are without any lens flaws. This decade-old G Master lens is truly an amazing piece of lens. Now, just for one more comparison, let's compare the F11 and F13 photos at 400mm. I could see a tiny bit reduction of sharpness at f13, but barely noticeable. Diffraction kicking in at this point is my guess for lack of sharpness and contrast. Now let's compare the 400mm range with and without teleconverter. Meaning 200mm with 2x teleconverter and 400mm without a teleconverter. The center sharpness seems pretty comparable, but there is a clear reduction of contrast and sharpness at corners. This is to be expected. But at a glance, there isn't much difference at all. We will have to zoom in at least 100% to notice it. Plus, to my eyes, there seemed to be a tiny warm color shift on the teleconverter image. Comparing the photos shot at 800mm with the teleconverter and at 400mm without the teleconverter, I feel like the center sharpness with the 2x teleconverter at 800mm is better than the 400mm zoomed in the post. But the corner sharpness is pretty much the same between the zoomed in image without the teleconverter and the 2x teleconverter image. This is unexpected for a teleconverter. I was pleasantly surprised to see such levels of detail even at 800mm range. There is even sufficient contrast with the teleconverter, but it looks a tad bit washed off, which is what I would usually expect out of these 2x teleconverters. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the sharpness this teleconverter delivers. Now for the video quality, it is pretty good. I have no complaints. I feel like I need a much more stabler tripod and a stable hand. Perhaps also I need a camera with better rolling shutter performance. The A7C2's rolling shutter is super abysmal that the video is mostly a dancing jello, especially at the 800mm range. Speaking of video, autofocus for video is nice and snappy. I would totally use this teleconverter for building videos once I get my hands on the A7 IV. One thing that is common with all zoom lenses is that it is easy to focus from closer subjects to infinity, but any lens would struggle to focus from infinity to closer subjects. This teleconverter follows suit as well. The A7C2 struggles to focus on birds with busy backgrounds in zone focus mode. What you see is not the fault of the lens or the teleconverter. For photos especially, I would use tracking autofocus with flexible spot and it works as expected. Overall, video autofocus is surprisingly good for a 2x teleconverter. Same goes for the performance of the photo autofocus as well. The autofocus is fast and snappy, but it isn't as good as it is without the teleconverter. The autofocus performance is slightly slower with the teleconverter. This teleconverter adds about 225 grams to the overall weight of the camera and lens, but it gives the reach, especially in good light. I wouldn't obviously recommend using this lens for low light applications unless it is for videos, as you just need slower shutter speeds for videos anyway. So, do I recommend it? I usually tell everyone that I do not align with the policy of Viltrox due to their greed in pushing unnecessary flawed budget lenses in the consumer market. But this time, I think I'm going to say, for the price, you get a decent teleconverter which is slightly better than the native Sony 2x teleconverter. So if you think you need it, go get it. Again, don't expect this to perform as good as something like the native Sony lenses. Adding this teleconverter doesn't give you the performance of the native lenses. It just gives you extra reach with a reasonable compromise on the quality and speed. I got this as I'm downsizing a lot, and this additional 225 grams gives me 200 to 800 millimeters range without having to invest on the 400 to 800 millimeter lens, which alone is like 2.5 kilograms. So this is a worthwhile investment for me. But if you're prioritizing the speed and quality, the 400 to 800 millimeters with bright apertures at f8 would give you better results, but at the cost of additional weight. Anyway folks, that's it for the video today. I will make a follow-up video using the teleconverter on my A7 IV, which is not yet there on my hands. I might even do another video using 70 to 200mm f2.8 G Master 2 lens, so you can expect a lot more interesting videos in our channel. So consider subscribing to the channel and like if you like this video. Peace.